back to another episode of Scott's Quick Cash Class. I am your host, Scott. So today we are talking about your budget and how to fix your budget if you have a problem with your budget. I know I've definitely had problems with my budget in the past, but I'm going to give you some solutions here if you stick with me, and hopefully you can use some of these and that'll help you out. So let's talk about budgeting. It sucks, right? Most people hate budgeting because you feel like you're always restricting yourself, right? Like, I can't go buy this. I gotta stick to my budget. I can't go buy this. You know, it's like being on a diet. For those of you who've been on a diet before, you know, you see, hey, I want that or I want that, but you know, you haven't gone to the gym, or maybe you cheated before. And so, you know, that self-control is very difficult, right? Same thing with budgeting, right? You know, there's always all these unexpected things that come up, or we see something new that comes and we're thinking to ourselves, you know, hey, I want to get that, I want to get that. And even if you were working on a budget, a lot of times you just kind of go, well, it's not that big of a deal. And you go ahead and make that purchase and you feel good for about 30 seconds or a day. And then you're regretting your decision, right? Maybe not all the time, but I'm sure, like most of you, I have too, you know, wondering why I bought that and I've only used it once, or I never used it. Yeah, so, you know, just, it's definitely, it's hard to control a budget, right? So I want us to focus on behaviors instead of thinking that you got to be ultra disciplined, right? It's just about setting up processes and behaviors. And a lot of things that I talk about on my podcast are about changing mindset and behaviors. And this is another one, right? So let's build a money flow system, right? Think about it when you get paid, whether that's somebody actually gives you a check or you have direct deposit. I think, you know, most people now are in the 21st century. They have some form of direct deposit that either goes on a card or goes to their bank account. Well, the first thing most people when they're struggling, I know when I was you know, younger, there was, you know, numerous times it's like, okay, when's my paycheck coming? And when I was younger, we didn't have all these cash advance places that they do online, which that's a whole nother conversation. But, you know, as soon as I get my paycheck, I'd be like, oh, I gotta go buy this, or I have to pay this bill, this bill, this bill. I wasn't thinking about future Scott, right? Future Scott, he was non-existent, you know? So what I had to do, you know, I would take occasionally, okay, here's $100, put it in savings, or here's another 100, put it in savings. Or, you know, sometimes I'd, you know, take money and put it in envelopes, just some place to get it out of sight, out of mind, because if you see it, you'll spend it, right? And so we want to talk about building a system. So the first thing is with your direct deposit or your paycheck, I would open up 2 accounts, right? And one account, the majority of your money goes into, the other account is savings, right? So it automatically gets taken out of your paycheck. I know at my place of business and other places that I've seen that when you go in, you can pick 2, 3, 4 different bank accounts that you can route the money to. The next thing is you want to set up an account for investing that gets automatically taken out, right? So that you're not even missing that. Now, how much is that? That's up to you. You know, ideally, if you can get 20%, that's the best case scenario. But when I first started with my 401k, I put just enough in to get the company match. And then slowly, as I began to make more money and I became more financially free, I began raising that number. You know, it was started at 5, then went to 7 and 8 to 10. We're up to 32% because I can't give any more at this point. But it didn't start on day one, right? It took me 7, 8 years to get up to 32%, and I started at 5. And you just have to make sure that you're persistent with it, right? Whenever you get your raise, or whenever you know, clear up some money and you're like, hey, I got some extra money in here. Well, assign it somewhere, ideally investments, before you spend it on something else. So that's a couple things that I would do. The other thing is you've heard probably different budget rules, like the 50-30-20 or the 60-20-20 or the 70-10-20 budgeting system. And basically what that is, that first number, the biggest number, is for needs, you know, your housing, food, your no nonsense bills that you have to have. The second one is your wants, right? So that percent number can change, you know, 30%, 20%, 10%, but that's your wants, right? Like when you're going out to have fun or you're buying that new thing. And then that last percentage, whether it be 10%, 20%, 15%, that's for your investing, building wealth, right? That's your, for lack of a better term, that's your FU money, right? Because if you get enough of it and you're in a situation that you don't like, you just go, I'm done. And whether that's a job, whether that's a relationship, whether that's just a bad financial situation that somebody else is in that you don't want to be part of anymore, when you set up things like this and give yourself a back door, you give yourself options. So that percentage is based on you, but I would at least say try to start with 5%. Most people aren't going to miss 5% out of their paycheck. You think you will, and maybe you miss it the first time and the second time, but I guarantee you after 3 or 4 months, you won't even realize that 5% is gone. So I would challenge you to do the 5%. So let's talk question of the day and tip of the day, and we'll get you out of here. Question of the day: what matters more, tracking every dollar or automating the right ones? And this is a tough one, but I would definitely lean, at least for me, is automation, right? Because automation has made my financial success a lot easier than if I would have had to try to do it myself. But I'll leave you with that. And then tip of the day: create a no-brainer budget. Automate. I said at least 5. You can do 10 to 20% to your savings the second you get paid before you even see it. That's my tip. Get the money out of your account before you even see it, and you won't even miss it. I guarantee you won't even miss it. And when you just take a little bit at a time, start at 5%, then go to 6, 7, 8, guarantee you won't even miss it, and it'll actually start to become like a fun little challenge, like, hey, how much more can I invest in my 401k, or how much more can I save? So I'm going to leave you with that. Thanks for watching. Once again, never going to try to sell you anything, just here to give you some advice from lessons that I've learned through my time. And if you have a question, please leave a comment. If you liked what you saw, give us a like. And then if you're interested, subscribe. Every day I'm bringing you 5-minute podcasts. Till next time.